Welcome to your morning cup.
I forgot what we were saying for a minute.
Yep.
It's your morning cup.
With iBenz Academy.
I'm Ash.
I'm Kara.
And we're Kash.
We're Kash.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
So it was really interesting because we've been talking a lot lately about separation.
Yes.
And I mean, for a long time we've been talking about being lone wolves. Right?
Yeah, we're experts at that.
Yes. And I'm sure we're not alone.
Ironic.
Right.
You're not alone in your lone wolfiness.
Yeah. But as of late, it's like the volume on separation has been turned up quite a bit.
Or like a lot.
Yes, like a lot of bit.
Like a lot of it.
In the latest Driving to the Res podcast, Larry and Inelia, we'll link it here, but Larry and Inelia were talking about that amplification of the separation energy on the planet.
Yeah, which actually in some ways I think is a really good sign. A good sign in the sense we're on to something if we're connecting with groups and doing amazing work on ourselves to connect to the point where it's being artificially amplified to do the opposite. So
yeah, well, it's like move with purpose, you know, people going into the paradigm of their choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that makes sense. The only thing is, if you get pulled into the riptide of separation when really it's not your riptide, you know, like that's not your wave, that's not actually what you were going for, you're on a different wave, then it can be a little bit challenging.
Turbulent. Whitewater Rapids.
Yes. Not so smooth anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fascinating how with that energy turned up, it's really quick and easy to be like, it's just so subtle to like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Yeah. I don't think I want to be a part of this group.
I'm over it. I'm leaving.
Yeah, I'm not going to hang out with these people anymore.
I don't really like them.
No.
In fact, it's been a waste of time.
Yeah. I have so many things I need to do that I'll do instead.
Way more important things.
Yeah, tons of more important things.
Then it's like, wait a minute. These are like
time out.
The best groups ever, and I always have fun, and it's amazing. So that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
But even like supportive groups, like, you know, work, you know, like our jobs, supportive, right? They make our life possible in so many ways to live the lifestyle that we live, right?
Yeah.
Could be other groups, and it might not, when we're maybe biased because we're in a lot of really awesome groups through Walk With Me Now. And
oh, yeah. Definitely.
And others, like even just with iBenz Academy, the amazing alumni groups we're a part of. But yeah, so it's like taking away our support systems.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
No. So I know in the podcast, Larry and Inelia were recommending, if you're feeling any of that, like, wait 4 months. Just wait. Like, time out. Wait.
Yeah, just chill out until February and, you know, reevaluate. And then you can see, oh, actually, yeah, the last 4 months were kind of a waste of time and totally worthless. And now I can make a very clear decision. Yeah. Or, probably more accurate, it will be, wow, I can't believe I was thinking about leaving 4 months ago. This is freaking awesome. Right. Look at all this stuff we did. Wow. Right. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
But who's to say? We'll see you in February where we're at.
Recently, I went on a work trip to Los Angeles, and I wasn't there for very long. It was like maybe 48 hours, a little bit
days.
More. Yeah. Not
counting travel.
And it was like, whoa. That's the best word to describe.
Whoa, in what way?
Like, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been skydiving.
No.
But when you first jump out of the plane.
Have you been skydiving?
I have.
Oh, I didn't know
When you first jump out of the plane, there's a period of time where everything's so far away, you don't have like a point of reference to how fast and much that you're falling, and then until you start seeing the plane move away, right? You can tell, but it's still like not quite the same. But the closer you get to the ground and there's more of like a point of reference nearby, like it's easier to tell once you're falling. That's the way I remember it, right? There's that little period of time. And so like when in Los Angeles, there's like a period of time that it was just like out of my awareness of like kind of where the earth was, let's say it like that, right? Like in that metaphor of skydiving. So it's like hard to know like where's north.
Yeah.
You know? And then your compass gets totally like kind of out of whack and spinning and like it's just like you're off kilter, and it was like, holy smokes, so disoriented.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for my high frequency connections,
right,
you know, and then like just like seeds of like resonance and truth and high frequency in those conversations is like, oh yeah, like the fog like would have like kind of not necessarily take over, but it's like I just lost complete like orientation. That's the best way to put it. I just lost orientation of like high frequency and reality and what's happening, and it turned into like a ego trigger body like triggers, really, like, you know,
a trigger fest.
It was and then confusion through it all, because it's like on like an amplified scale of like, holy smokes, there's like a lot of things happening right now.
Yes, we did get some interesting messages from you for those 40 hours. And it's so good you reached out, too, because, one, it felt really good to support you, but we could also see, like, the reorientation happening. Yeah. You know?
Right.
Like the arrival of, and then, okay.
Wait.
It's all right. I got this.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, I'm leaving early. I'm coming home.
Yeah.
But it was like so like subtle, like it started to come in, and then it was like just totally like my awareness completely shifted to like everything was like just out of whack. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. And then, and, you know, and it's like, there's obviously tools and resources that we have and things that to do to help support, and like taking colloidal silver and supplements that were supporting my body, and using EMF protection and other things like that that were like really great and helpful, and meditating. Yeah. And yet, you know, and there's still like a disorientation that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could see maybe if I wasn't like right in the heart of like Los Angeles, in the middle of the big city, and like everything that's going on there, maybe it was different. But when I came home, what I was most surprised by, because I thought, okay, I'm coming home early and everything's good. And I came home and felt better instantly, like physically, like I was having physical like ailments, and it was like cleared up and everything was all right. We're safe. We're home. And still like these programs of separation were super insistent. Like they were still there of like, I don't really want to see anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I don't know. Maybe I should just like, you know, maybe I should hang out with other people, like kind of mentality. For what? There was no like trigger to that. Right. You know, there was no like something happened that would set that like thought pattern. It was just the thoughts that were coming up, and it was right away like red flag of like, this is like really supportive like tribe. Yeah. Like why would I want like where would I even go? And I go hang out with other people, and then what? Like I know what that's like. I've spent my whole life hanging out with other people. Right. You know.
It seemed pretty non sequitur.
It was. There wasn't like something that happened. It was just totally like out of the blue. Yeah. And so then that was like the red flag of like, okay, well, there's
something's off
here.
And that's what we get curious, right? It's like, why am I feeling this way? It doesn't really make sense. That's a really good indication that something's off.
Right.
Get curious and see follow the energy line and see where that origin is.
And then hearing the Driving to the Reds podcast, it was like, and then reading the newsletter for IneliaBenz.com, it was like, oh,
that's what's going on.
That makes a lot of sense. And I was already like processing it, right? And these feelings, allowing them to express. And at the same time, it was like, this is unusual. Yeah. This is odd. Why? Like, why is this coming up? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, the separation programs are getting pushed left, right, and center, as Inelia would say. And so we just need to be aware of that, right? Like you said, we can be diligent and street smart about how we respond. And that's why it's so important to continue to stay connected, right? So if you have that niggle of like, I think I'm ready to go, maybe wait a couple months, see how it goes. Because it seems like that connection is going to be even more important in the months to come, for whatever reasons, right? Just like how reaching out to the group was that reorientation back to north being high frequency. And if we spin without our compass, we're going to have a tough time, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's why it's important to stay connected to your support systems. And especially if you know they are high frequency. And Inelia talked about this in the podcast, so we won't go into too much depth about it here. But it's like if you are in an abusive relationship, like, yeah, you separate and you leave, right?
Of course.
Because there is a split going on and, be street smart. But if it's about things that you've enjoyed in the past or have been supportive and high frequency and, filled with inspiration and connection and joy and all these things, and then you want to separate from that, that's when it's like, what's going on here? Get curious about that.
Yep.
Yeah. I know for me personally, like, there's just a lot of programs around separation itself, like firewalls and fears, and, it's really just insidious and it goes really deep. And just going back to the basics of, like, fear processing.
Oh, yeah, big time. That's a huge, it's helpful.
Yeah. And because we got to be proactive about it too, not in terms of just leaving or not leaving our groups, but also looking at any low frequency programs that might be getting triggered from, whatever is being beamed out right now or pushed on the collective. Because if we didn't have that stuff running, we wouldn't be feeling it, honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
And we've got a lot of training as being lone wolves, which up until now has been supportive of a dark light paradigm experience, right? To stay as a shiny, fluffy bunny light worker in a time where light and dark was rampant. But it's different now. And we gotta, do what we can to fully step out of the dark light. And processing is a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, expanding our awareness, right? Like through reaching out and connecting and talking with our tribe right there, right away. It was almost instant. Like the first reply back was like expansion of awareness. Like I could feel it, like my awareness started to open up. And then it was like, oh yeah. Like there's a story, gosh, I'm going to butcher the story, so you can look it up. But there's a story I've heard Inelia tell about, I want to say it was Krishna, maybe, who like incarnated as a pig.
Oh, yeah.
And then there were the other deities. I don't know which ones. Again, sorry guys, I'm butchering it. But then they were coming back and saying, "You're not a pig."
Whispering in the ear.
Whispering in his ear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, he would remember, but it's it's like that physical experience just totally takes over. Right? And it's like very, like, it seems so vivid and it's so real.
Yeah.
And once I started talking with our group, it was like, oh yeah, I'm not a pig. Like, this is what I was telling myself, like, I'm not a pig, because it reminded me of that story, and it was just funny to remember and get that perspective of expand my awareness, and I don't have to like necessarily like run away from my work, and it's not like my people at work aren't I don't need to separate from them either. Like, it was actually really great to connect with them and to be in person and have these experiences that are connection and bonding and collaborative, right? But I also realized like there were other things I could have been doing too that would have helped my physical body and adjusting through that experience.
Yeah, that's such a good point too, because sometimes it can be really tempting to disconnect from seemingly low frequency groups or engagements, like in this case, let's say your job or work people or a project. But at the same time, for those who have chosen the dark light paradigm, there's still the light part, right? And we can engage with them at the light level, and their collaboration with us is still supportive and supportive of our high frequency, because covering our bases is important. Like, we still live in, at least in the Western world, and if you're listening to this podcast, probably you are, but not everyone. But if you're living in the Western world, then, there are certain rules of engagement that are underway. Like, you have to pay to live on the planet. You have to pay to get water. You have to pay for your food. Is that true? Not necessarily. But it is the lifestyle we're choosing, right? And it also supports us to, like, let's say, put out this podcast and have a computer with electricity and internet to make it happen and all these things. But at the same time, you know, there are certain structures in place that require that. Like in this case, having an income. And having chi and money and income helps us to do our good works as we're at this time. So completely separating from, let's say, a job because it seems low frequency, like, it's the enslavement program of the planet, just enslavement of the masses, this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, I guess you could see it that way, and it might be true for some, but also we can engage in those spaces in a high frequency way where it can be interesting and supportive and we can learn, and, you know, we don't have to go to battle or have drama at work. Like, those are choices, but we are still in that structure, at least for right now. So if separation comes up, even from what seemingly might be low frequency, it's like, let's take a look at that and really be diligent in scanning it and talking about it with your allies, your high frequency allies, and getting that expansion of awareness perspective. Like, should I really quit my job right now? What would happen if I don't? Well, this could happen, that could happen. But it's easy to be in your bubble, but the high frequency support, that's why it's there, to be supportive when making decisions like that. So you can do it from a conscious, aware perspective and not just fleeing from the situation, reacting.
Totally.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, you know, listening to the podcast like this, you know, getting perspective is another way to expand your awareness, right? Connecting with your tribe, connecting with your high frequency allies who you trust, right? Like, there has to be quality of perspective, right? Because if you're going to somebody whose perspective is entrenched in, you know, let's say the old paradigm, you're not going to get an expanded perspective because that's not what that paradigm promotes.
Very good point.
So making sure to choose wisely.
Know your audience when you're getting counsel.
Yes.
They'll be sharing their counsel from their perspective, which in some ways can be good and maybe not so good because, you know, it's all about context, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, you know, this is why being street smart about it is helpful too. Know who you're talking to and maybe where they're coming from as well. So you can be aware about any filters that are coming through. Because we all have our filters and programs and stuff, right? But having high frequency filters is really great too. Yeah.
It's true. Have you had any recent experiences of feeling separation?
Oh, goodness. I think for me, what often gets triggered with the separation programs are extreme reactions from my ego. Because the ego, when it's in an unhealthy state and it's in an injured state, it like shrinks your awareness and it becomes all about like me, myself, and I in an unhealthy way. And for me, when I feel that I'm separating, it's almost like a feeling of like everything's triggering and I can't think or see very clearly because literally my awareness is so small. It's just about like a really nasty feeling or feeling defensive or this, that, and the other. And the separation can come from that because, for example, an ego trigger that I often experience is I'm a people pleaser and I want people to like me, right? And that will often lead to some negative separation programs around like separating from a project that I'm interested in because maybe I actually don't want to be there, or I'm only there because I want people to think about me in a certain way, or maybe people pleasing, like doing something that I don't want to do, but I'm doing it because, you know, it's like this weird obligation thing. So it's really actually about separation because the defensiveness energy is at its core like us versus them. And when those ego triggers happen, it's like falling into that separation of us versus them, when it's not that at all, right? Like that's full on power over others and victim aggressor stuff. So it's really more subtle. Like I don't feel like, oh, I want to leave a group right now, or I'm going to quit my job, or this, that, and the other. It's more like negative thoughts about myself or people. And at the core, it's that separation of us versus them. And it's very unpleasant. And it's a very like shrunken awareness. So to step out of it, there's a lot of tools that I use and that you can use too if you experience something similar, which is fear processing. That's always my go-to.
It's like always the go-to.
Always.
Without a doubt. Like just
over and over.
Make it your best friend, because it's just going to happen.
Yeah. And just for reference, like I literally use it every day, sometimes multiple times a day, because clearly I still got fear running in my life, right? Because an injured ego is often motivated by fear. And a lot of that separation or us versus them energy is fear-based. Like fear that, oh, they won't like me, or fear of, oh, what if, they react negatively or whatever. So that's the energy I find in myself and process with. So that's one step. And then there's also the ego exercise from Ascension 101, and that's super helpful too. And it's just, diligence. Just got to keep it up. So for me, the past couple weeks, like for seemingly no reason, like that un sequitur kind of feeling, my ego's just been like going nuts. And it doesn't make sense because nothing's really that different. It's just normal stuff. But it's just been like amplified.
Totally.
And that I'm interested in. I'm like, what's going on here?
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So with that too, I think it's also good to give ourselves some like respite.
Yes.
Like get outside, get to an area that's quiet and it's not full of like noise, whether it's psychic noise or EMF noise. Obviously do your processing, I think both of those tools are really great. Ascension 101 ego exercise, as well as fear processing exercise. But making sure it's like, we've talked about it so many times before, but like covering our bases. Like if you've got a cup of water, are you sleeping well? Like what else? Exercising.
Good air.
Are you getting time outside? Yep. Good air, good people, hugs,
connection, physical
cuddles.
touch.
Yeah.
Breathing in, like energetically as well, not just breathing out.
Yeah. So it's like all of these things, we have the tools and resources in our lives to be able to address and to like kind of mitigate, if you will, and trying to lighten the load. But it's easy to like, you're waiting for your wave and you get pulled into the wrong wave, or you think it's your wave and you're like, oh shit, this isn't the wave I want.
Yes.
And it's fine. It's like, oops,
yep.
Right? Oops, I indulged. Oops, I went into total like separation mode.
Yep.
Like, and then it's like, then you can start to choose something different.
Right.
And to what Kara said before, it's like, then we can become curious. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? Because if it's in us, if we have a reaction, there's an open door within us that's resonant to it, that's allowing that to be there.
Yeah.
So then we can look at that. And that's when I would use the firewalls processing exercise, most likely, on whatever that open door is, whatever that is that comes up when we look at it.
Yeah. So true. Because when you're like in the thick of it, like let's say spinning or ego triggered, it's really challenging to like pull yourself out. But you also have to stack the positives, right? Like everything you mentioned about covering our bases and also doing like some of the tools like fear processing and all these things. I think what also helped me when I felt just ongoing separation programs is I would make a point to actively connect, even though when it seemed like I didn't want to, like go out and be social, or even on a like a daily practice level, like doing some of the connection exercises, like the unified field meditation is amazing. And also one of the meditations that Inelia did as part of the instant manifestation workshop It's a connection exercise with the high frequency human collective. And that combo helped so much, like doing the fear processing stuff and all the work around that, but then literally connecting with the high frequency groups that are beyond us in the sense of like just physicality, right? Like at a planetary level, connecting at that level is so good and supportive. And of course your tribes, right? Physical connection and hanging out with amazing, supportive, interesting people, whether it's online or in person. All those things are just really important to be doing right now, because everything outside of us in the dark light paradigm is saying do the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I really loved what Larry and Inelia were saying, in the newsletter and podcast. Just wait. Wait 4 months. Just wait 4 months and then see how you feel. Of course, again, if you're in danger and it's an abusive relationship, there's something going on, like...
That's different.
Totally different story, right? We're talking about just that general, like, I think I'm going to get a divorce.
I'm over it.
Or, yeah, exactly. I'm going to leave this job, or I'm going to, just wait 4 months.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? And that feels so much easier. It feels lighter. It's like, all right, like, just wait.
Yeah.
And see, because it's possible this too will pass.
Yeah, exactly. And you can really test the waters that way too. Because after 4 months, if it's very clear, yep, sat with it, stayed here for a while, I'm good, I'm done. At least you can do that.
I did my processing.
Exactly. Doing that from a place of conscious choice, very different than out of like reaction and, perhaps having another program being responding out of that program instead, or reacting out of that program. Yeah.
Yeah. So
interesting times, huh?
Yeah. So as always, it's time to connect.
Yeah.
Even when it might not feel like what we want to do, or it doesn't feel like maybe easy. Connection is really what's in my experience of the split so far, and what's been going on in the last several years, is connection's been like the fruit and the gems of my life right now. Like, more than anything else, is like having these connections with us virtually, physically, and also in like that kind of like mystical meditative experience that we have through these guided meditations Inelia has brought in. So connection, man.
Yeah, that's really what the new paradigm is all about.
So when we are like pushing for the opposite of that, red flag.
Yep.
Something's going on.
Yep.
What is that? That's interesting.
Yep. So connect, and connect with us. We're available on Telegram or Walk With Me now. There are amazing high frequency tribes out there, and be proactive. Gotta make that connection. It's a two-way street, right?
Yep.
So connect with us and stay in your support groups, at least for the next 4 months.
Yes. And choose wisely.
Yes.
Choose wisely. There's some amazing, amazing groups out there, and then there's some that are not as amazing,
right.
And so use your discernment and use the truthing exercise. Use your tools, because you have that to be able to make those decisions.
Yep. So you can navigate what actually is good counsel.
Yep.
And maybe what
are good tribes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Where do you want to put your focus and your time and your energy?
Yep. Exactly.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I feel complete. Do you feel complete?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for connecting with us today. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.